Hello MotoGP fans. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Pecco Bagnaia reflected candidly on a turbulent 2025 and a tricky start to 2026, telling the BSTM podcast he has learned hard lessons about adaptation, media pressure and mental reset. The Ducati rider admitted the GP25 changes exposed weaknesses, praised Marc Márquez as a teammate and warned that public scrutiny can distort everything a rider says. Marc Márquez has been shortlisted for the Laureus World Sports Awards Best Male Athlete, a high-profile recognition that places the 9-time MotoGP world champion among the year's most celebrated athletes. The ceremony at Madrid's Cibeles Palace on April 20th will bring global sporting attention to a rider whose comeback story and championship success have resonated far beyond the paddock. Veteran paddock voice Carlo Pernat has offered a contrarian read on Marc Márquez's dramatic retirement at the Thai Grand Prix, arguing the rear tire failure was not the immediate result of a curb strike but a problem that began earlier. Pernat used the race to underline Aprilia's strength, question Ducati's weekend, and highlight strategic choices at KTM. Alberto Puig weighed in on the swirling transfer talk linking Pedro Acosta to Ducati and offered a clear-eyed view of what makes a rider special. The Honda HRC team manager praised Acosta's ambition, defended the courage of young talents, and reminded listeners that machinery and timing matter as much as raw speed. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Bagnaia said his biggest error was assuming the GP25 would feel like the GP24. Where testing suggested potential, race weekends revealed a bike that behaved differently and demanded new solutions. He described trying to force the old feeling onto a changed machine and paying the price in confidence and results. My mistake was probably convincing myself that my potential with the GP24 was at its maximum, and assuming it would be the same. The admission underlines how small technical shifts can cascade into a season of struggle if a rider cannot quickly find a new baseline. Bagnaia singled out the Indonesian Grand Prix as his lowest point but stressed he never lost his head. He described a process of starting fresh every lap, using mistakes as data rather than excuses, and rebuilding confidence session by session. The approach was pragmatic: accept the setback, reset mentally, and keep working. When things go wrong, you have to know how to reset. That resilience is central to a rider who has spent years at the sharp end of the championship, and now faces the task of rediscovering form. Bagnaia criticized the media environment, calling recent coverage bordered on madness, and warning that quotes are often twisted. He said constant repetition of the same questions can trap riders into off-the-cuff remarks that are then amplified. The message was clear: transparency is desirable, but caution is necessary in a hyperactive paddock. Managing public narrative has become as important as managing tire life and setup. Far from being intimidated by Marquez's arrival, Bagnaia said he saw it as an incentive. He praised Marquez's adaptability and riding style and described a constructive relationship in the garage, with mutual respect and technical exchanges. The presence of a rider of Marquez's caliber, Bagnaia argued, is an opportunity to learn rather than a threat. He's been through some tough years, he wanted to get back in the game, and in my opinion, that can only be an incentive. The tone suggests competition within the team is professional and potentially beneficial for both riders. Bagnaia acknowledged the double-edged sword of being a Rossi protege, a legion of supporters but also louder detractors. He said he still carries the baggage of 2015 unfairly, and that being associated with Valentino Rossi brings both adoration and amplified criticism. The rider expressed frustration at being misrepresented but also acceptance that scrutiny comes with the role. Pecco Bagnaia's interview was a mix of accountability and perspective, technical misreads, mental resilience, media fatigue and a constructive view of having Marc Márquez alongside him. He framed 2025 as a teacher and 2026 as a season for careful rebuilding, a process of resetting expectations, refining communication and turning lessons into performance. The Laureus Awards reward not only results but narratives that inspire resilience, comeback, and impact. Marquez's inclusion recognizes a season that combined elite performance with a compelling personal arc, returning to the top after injury and adversity. For a motorsport athlete to feature in a multi-sport shortlist is notable. It signals that MotoGP's drama and technical excellence can compete for mainstream sporting headlines. The nod is both a personal honor and a marker of MotoGP's growing cultural footprint. Marquez responded with measured gratitude, framing the nomination as a collective achievement. He thanked engineers, mechanics, and support staff, stressing that championships are won by teams as much as by riders. That team-first message underlines the collaborative nature of modern motorsport and the shared ownership of high-profile accolades. I've been waiting a long time to return to the top. This nomination is for everyone who worked with me. Spain enjoys strong representation across the Laureus shortlist this year, with stars from tennis, football, and endurance sport also nominated. Marquez sits alongside athletes whose achievements span different disciplines, which highlights a particularly rich period for Spanish sport. The cross-discipline nature of Laureus means voters weigh both sporting excellence and broader influence. Marquez's comeback narrative and public profile strengthen his case. The shortlist places MotoGP within Spain's wider sporting success story. Beyond individual prestige, the nomination raises MotoGP's visibility among mainstream audiences, sponsors, and broadcasters. Laureus coverage reaches non-specialist sports fans and decision-makers. A motorsport presence on that stage helps attract new viewers and commercial interest. It also reframes MotoGP stories as human dramas, technical, physical, and emotional, that translate across sporting boundaries. Recognition at multi-sport awards can open doors that pure race results alone do not. Whether Marquez wins or not, the Laureus shortlist is a meaningful endorsement. It recognizes performance, perseverance, and impact. For Marquez, it is another milestone in a career defined by high peaks and resilient returns. For MotoGP, it is a reminder that the sport's narratives can stand alongside the world's best athletic stories. Madrid will decide the winner, but the nomination already extends Marquez's reach and underscores MotoGP's place on the global sporting stage. Speaking to GP1, Pernat challenged the prevailing explanation that a Turn 4 curb impact was the sole cause of Marquez's sudden loss of pressure. He suggested the tire had already started to fail before the curb moment, and that the visible curb strike was the final trigger rather than the origin. "I'm quite sure it wasn't the curb. The tire came off earlier." Pernat's view reframes the incident from a one-off curb freak to a potentially earlier degradation or damage issue that merits closer forensic analysis. Pernat reserved high praise for Marco Bezzecchi and Aprilia, describing the Italian's performance as stratospheric, and noting the significance of four Aprilias finishing in the top 5. He argued that the result was more than a single rider's form. It reflected a robust technical foundation that translated across factory and satellite entries. "One swallow doesn't make a summer, but 4 swallows make a flock." Reporter: The depth of Aprilia's showing suggests the RSGP improvements are coherent and repeatable, not merely circuit-specific flashes. For Pernat, Ducati's weekend was a resounding slap in the face. He highlighted the end of the factory's long podium streak and singled out Pecco Bagnaia's lack of race pace as symptomatic of broader issues, good in practice but fading in race conditions. The combination of Marquez's high-profile retirement and underwhelming results from other Desmosedici riders painted a worrying picture. When multiple factory riders underperform, it points to setup, tire interaction, or race pace compromises rather than isolated rider errors. Pernat argued KTM's strategy is increasingly focused around Pedro Acosta, calling him the brand's technical and strategic priority. He suggested developments and upgrades are channeled primarily to Acosta, a choice that keeps KTM competitive through a single standout talent but risks leaving other riders behind. "Everything is done with Acosta in mind, every new feature," Every development, even a new screw, goes to him first. Pernat noted ongoing struggles for the Japanese factories. Yamaha wrestling with its new engine and Honda still working toward consistent front-running form. He urged caution before drawing season-long conclusions, pointing to Jerez and the European swing as crucial tests to separate one-off weekends from structural shifts. Early season volatility is common. The next rounds will reveal whether Buriram was an anomaly or the start of a new competitive order. Carlo Pernat's analysis reframes Buriram as a weekend of two stories: Aprilia's clear technical step forward and Ducati's multifaceted setback. His contention that Marquez's tire issue began before the curb strike raises fresh questions for Ducati and Michelin, while KTM's Acosta-first strategy and the Japanese manufacturer's struggles add further intrigue. The paddock will be watching Jerez closely for answers. Puig described Pedro Acosta as a fantastic rider, and said he understands why Acosta would want to measure himself against the very best on equal machinery. Puig framed such a move as a natural step for a young talent seeking to test his limits, calling the decision both brave and respectable. Acosta is a fantastic rider, and I understand why he wants to compete against the best and on equal terms. Puig's tone combined admiration for Acosta's courage with a pragmatic view that ambition must be matched by results once the rider sits on a different bike. On the speculation that Acosta could join Ducati, Puig acknowledged the logic of chasing a proven, winning machine while cautioning that paper promises must be proven on track. He emphasized that choosing a factory seat is a strategic career move and that only time will tell whether the gamble pays off. Puig balanced empathy for a rider's career goals with the reminder that success depends on fit between rider and bike, not reputation alone. Puig listed riders he regards as exceptional: Dani Pedrosa, Jorge Lorenzo, Marc Márquez, Casey Stoner and Valentino Rossi, and stressed that special talents are rare. He placed Acosta within a conversation about potential rather than immediate equivalence, acknowledging the youngster's promise while reserving the highest praise for those who have already proven themselves across seasons. There are few special riders. Pedrosa, Lorenzo, Marquez, Stoner, Rossi, they were very, very, very good. Puig framed Acosta's potential move as an expression of competitive spirit rather than hubris. He argued that MotoGP riders are inherently brave and that choosing to measure oneself against the best is part of the sport's DNA. The comment underlined a broader respect for riders who prioritize growth and challenge. Ambition is a virtue in Puig's view, provided it is matched by preparation and the right environment. Asked about the personal toll of his role at Honda HRC, Puig said he remains motivated by the work and the challenge of being in the trenches. He acknowledged the demands of leadership but framed them as part of a job he loves, suggesting long tenure in the paddock comes from passion rather than obligation. I have to work, but well, I like this. If you don't like it, you're not here. Puig's comments combined admiration for Acosta's courage with a realist's caution about the variables that determine success. He celebrated the bravery common to MotoGP riders, placed Acosta within a lineage of exceptional talent, and reminded listeners that timing, machinery, and context are decisive. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!